Uno, due, tre. Marco Galimberti, welcome to the last meeting of the week. How are you doing?
Very good.
You were
Actually, it's not true. We are very much under pressure these days.
What it means not true?
No, I'm not doing very good.
Not doing very good.
No.
In fact,
So
the first question of
I'm
the
happy
podcast,
to be here because I hope I can relax
you can relax
a
a little bit.
Yeah.
We can talk about
Yeah.
everything and anything. Normally, you replied to the question that I normally ask first, which is, how was the week? Why is this week more intense than others, Marco?
Because I had a business trip in Monday and Tuesday in Taipei, which was below my expectations, let's say, excessively intense. I was supposed to be back on Wednesday. I decided to go back on Tuesday night. I felt I was a bit tired because last week I came back on Saturday afternoon from Indonesia and Singapore, and so I felt okay. Probably I need to. Wednesday was Buddha's birthday, so I said I need to stay home and rest.
Yes.
And then when you have this single day in the middle of the week, you think it's a Sunday, and actually it's a Thursday, and then you have the pressure of the end of the week. And we have normal work pressure, so the business is becoming larger and larger, expectation higher and higher, and responsibilities as well. So.
But is it because you are doing too much, or is it because
I think so.
the market context is not good?
I think it's because I'm on many balls, and probably yes, I should hold off on certain things.
It is actually something. I like that you bring this topic up because I confess to you that I have been feeling the same. This week is the first week I feel like I've slept normal. I'm not going to say good. I'm going to say 6.5, 7 hours every night since March.
Wow.
Something like this. I think number one, in my case, I have been trying to make up for the time of COVID since COVID stopped. Number two, I was terribly scared about how this year was going to go. So January, February, March were years of a lot of output. And I have to say, the results are there. But I still have the feeling of insecurity on what's going to happen. This about to be recession has been imminent for so long, like for a couple of years. And now at this point, on one side, I want to believe like it's never going to happen. On the other side, I think it's like, Pietro e Lupo. No? It's like your defense get lower, but somehow you are alert. What do you think? What's going to happen?
The reason of the pressure behind it's because we are comparing, at least in our sector, with a 2023 that has been outstanding.
Okay.
So on certain markets we are slowing down, of course. That said, we are still talking about all-time high sales. And as you said, overall I perceive there is a bit of a slowness overall in the market. I would say cautiousness, but I mostly travel to mainland China, which is a country that has had a boost of energy for the last 25 years, and I think for the first time, for reasons different from the rise of interest rates, is actually the opposite. They have low interest rates, but they have deflation, and they feel that they cannot count anymore on the real estate and on the old playbook, so they need to reinvent a way to re-energize economic growth. And in the end, the first one who feels it are the one who are working in the consumer market, because you are basically cutting on your daily expenses and so on. That's a bit of the pressure. I think you need to accept that we probably need to upgrade the playbook. So in a way, I am excited because this moment of slowdowns and up and downs that we had many times in the last 4 years for us that we have been living in Hong Kong and in Asia in general, with lockdown, yes, no, closure and so on, is that they force you to think and reinvent yourself in a way, no?
Yes, for us 2023. I mean, I'm also in the consumer market, but my product has a different idiosyncrasy. 2023 for the lifestyle was terrible because we were coming from an amazing 2021 and 2022. Then everyone had an amazing house, everyone had designer products, and then in 2023 people realized they needed to enjoy life, and that's probably when they started to go out. They went back to the shops. They started, indulging themselves in with drinks and chocolate and trips and so on.
Yeah.
For me, 2024, how to say, we have improved as a company, and we are harvesting the work of 3 years, but not because we are strongly up in 2024 compared to last year, but not because the market is going well. It's because we were a company in a very early phase of development in this region, and something had to happen. There were many open opportunities that we needed to cash on, but especially in China. You said it's good to have these downtimes to strategize a little bit, but also at the same time, we have been changing approach constantly since 2020, pretty much. And now I feel like even the Chinese, who are the number one in history in adaptability, they're a little bit lost in which direction to take. The deflation is a reality. Deflation in real estate. Deflation. I think one very important factor is that during 2023, Chinese companies, they wanted to keep the results up, so they stocked up of everything. And this year they need cash flow, and they are selling at a very steep discount. And at least in my sector, I don't know if it's the same in something.
Well, there is a huge amount of stock in general on a lot of products, from cars. We know stock availability in the real estate, stock availability in general in consumer goods. There is a huge stock availability in China now.
So how do you think they can tackle that? I mean, it's the $1 million question. If you had the answer, you would be president.
I think it's exactly what they are doing now. They are a bit going back to the old export-driven playbook. So you have seen, these what the media call charming offensive of Chinese entrepreneurs traveling abroad. You see them, very active in welcoming foreign investors. They are now very motivated in exporting cars, which I think they became last year the largest car exporter in the world. And
that's
all
crazy.
of a sudden, 2019 they were number 5, and then it became number 1. So they really want to bring their products out, and we see many missions of Chinese entrepreneurs really going abroad and try to bring again products out. I have a friend who had a jewelry business in Hong Kong, and she could basically for the last 10 years she could rely completely on the tourists in Hong Kong.
Mm-hmm.
And last year, for the first time, she started to do international exhibitions outside of Hong Kong again.
Okay.
Because there is clear that you cannot rely solely and only on the tourists, on the domestic business, and so on. And so I think the Chinese entrepreneurs are flying back again and bringing products out of China. And I think for them, probably now it's really the only way.
It is the only way to also open the country. I was actually, while you were talking, I was thinking that now that in certain aspects the US is closing down on itself, something that China has been probably the beacon of doing. Let's say how to bulletproof a society. They have opened so fast in the last few months that people don't haven't even realized. Like the visa-free thing, we've never experienced that before.
Yeah.
Now I read yesterday something about news that in Beijing they would give away visa for workers of people without not even 2 years of experience, which is translated to common talk. Please, everyone, come to China and let's fill this country again with expats and with exchange. And if they do that, they can achieve a China of the China that I knew in 2012, which for me was El Dorado. For me, it was the China of opportunity, of drive, of people willing to do things. And as much as last year it was a little bit scary, I think they can turn it around very, very fast. I I met China in 2012. When did you start working with Asia Pacific and mainland China?
2015.
2015. And how have you seen the evolution? Let's talk about pre-pandemic, because
Yeah.
I want to take a special chapter of the pandemic, because you are a special crusader of that period. How did you experience the evolution of China in those, maybe let's say 5 years, from 2015 to 2020?
I think they had a growing awareness in general. They felt, I have seen a country which was very inclined into traveling and getting exposed to the Western world, and they were, the ones. I look at, several markets. They were the one traveling. There was this massive amount of people traveling outside of China. So, it was that generation. It looked to me like Japan in 1990s, 1980s, when the Japanese, they were flocking into Europe and United States, and they were the top shoppers. But then I think they became more aware of what were their potential. I think it's also thanks to their technological development. It was literally standalone. And so, it became a country where, these guys, they were flying out to fashion shows and to shop. And in the end, now are countries that are hosting fashion shows of these brands more and more. So if you're a fashion brand, a luxury brand now, you don't do a show in China. Like, whoa, really? Like, Chanel announced today that they're doing the cruise collection show in Hong Kong in 2025.
Okay.
Some luxury brands are, making fashion shows and exhibitions in Shanghai more and more. Like every month you have an exhibition of a foreign brand showcasing their, historical products, historical collections, and so on. So this means that the Chinese people were they're growing aware that, they were important, that they had their own space, that they had their own way of delivering creativity, their own way of liking certain things, which is very different from the rest of the world. Now they have their own way of perceiving the images of the product, the intrinsic value of the product, and what they really like to experience, which is different from us. It's a different way of enjoying these things. So we all thought that, I think mistakenly in 2015 or whatever, that these people that were really getting into a Western lifestyle, I think they developed their own.
Yeah.
And I think they have their own now. And they have their own way of enjoying food, their own way of, enjoying tourism. And you have seen also in Hong Kong how the things have changed. Now, 10 years ago was a shopping destination, right? And you had malls that couldn't manage the crowd and couldn't manage the product and so on. And, Hong Kong was, the paramount of retail all over Asia and all over the world. And now these guys, you see them, they come to Hong Kong and they want to do hikes. They go to Kennedy Town for the sunset. They look for the cool bar. They look for the cool restaurant. They look for, the Cha Chan Teng in a small street in Soho or in Sham Shui Po. A guy that is making, dim sum since 70 years, and, they queue for these kind of things. So this means that also their awareness and their sophistication in a way, and the things that are interested are changing, no? And I mean, they are evolving in a way. And you see the same in China. I mean, there are historical rural areas in China, in cities, the historical sites in certain cities that are becoming extremely popular. So the former French concession in Shanghai has become a top tourist destination for everybody going to Shanghai. The area of Anfulu, Wukanlu, Washanlu, all that area in Shohui district. It was a beautiful, residential area, became now, a shopping and a lifestyle destination. And more, my team is telling me, we should look into, historical sites and places where they have, in second-tier cities or new tier 1 cities, in places where we have, historical sites, because people now is really looking into going into the historical sites, into traditional places and so on. So it's a consumer that has clearly changed, no? Of course, they are still attracted. If you tell me, are these guys the largest luxury buyer and consumer in the world, and and they will be the consumer of the future? No doubt. Absolutely, yes. Like, find me another country at this stage of development with this size, with this anyway, overall, if we talk about the first 200 and 300 million people, so the upper part of the society with this level of education, with this level of sophistication, it's basically China's the same size of Europe. No, if we compare, the upper tier of the wealth to the lower to Europe and to the United States. So it's difficult to find another United States in the world now, right? So
it is correct. I mean, it's very funny because and for people that listen to this podcast, it should actually reinforce the point that you just made. The fact that a few months ago I had Jacopo Pesavento sitting in front of me, and I asked him not the same question, but it was kind of going on the same direction. And he replied something very similar to what you just said. No, actually, the question was, is now the Chinese consumer more or less brand-driven than the European or the Western one? And he replied by saying they have developed their own way of liking things. I think between 2015 and 2020, they developed a sense of pride that that the Western media, and even sometimes myself, I tended to focus on the negative side,
you downplayed.
I didn't downplay it as much as I said. Now, there is sort of like a sense of a superiority that is derived is a consequence of having felt inferior for a very long time. But then I started changing the way to look at it. It's like, no. First of all, they develop a sense of pride, which makes sense because they have been a great nation for so many millennia. And now with that sense of pride, they don't feel the need to copy someone else. Actually, they feel like they are Zhongguo again, the Middle Kingdom. And in the Middle Kingdom, everyone came from the barbarians came to actually pledge allegiance to the emperor. And now the companies need to pledge at least admiration and respect and dedication to the Chinese customer. The problem is that this change has happened so fast.
Yeah.
So my question is, can you name some examples apart from Venchi? Because I know you are on top of things, of companies that have understood and acted on this.
I would say the sectors that are exposed to daily consumer, I think they understood it well. So I would say that again, some luxury brands in particular, and some beauty and cosmetic brand, for what I see, they got it very right. Who didn't get it right? I think it was the old sectors. So if you talk about the automotive industry, they didn't get it, and nobody saw it coming, that there was a shift in the consumer and the consumer preference, and it was maybe sometimes was regulation driven, no? People think like, oh, why in China there are so many electric cars? Yeah, because you know how difficult it is to get a blue plate in China? So the green plate is for free, right? So they can have cars and so on. And again, it's a bit old school maybe to say, but there is one entrepreneur that I, in a way, admire, because he decided to keep on doubling down in China and continue fighting and competing in China, and is Elon Musk and Tesla.
Yeah.
So people think like, oh no, Tesla is the antagonist, is the Western version of the electric vehicle of the Chinese brands. It's not absolutely true. The guy has 2 factories in China. He's competing every day. He has showrooms next to Chinese brands showroom. He said he went to China. He said, I want to double down my investments. I want to fight here because I think that the ecosystem is going to improve Tesla. And this is a sense of, and this is, I think, is the real nature of the competition, right? So it's not about putting tariffs. It's about, okay, you want to compete? I come and compete with you. And if you're better than me, I will try to absorb what you're doing better than me and improve myself. And these, I think, it's the right spirit. So, the old traditional brands, I would say mostly European car makers, they are now suffering. China is still the largest market in the world in terms of a number of cars sold per year.
Yes.
And of course they're suffering because I think they downplayed a little bit this electric vehicle trend. They're trying to catch up now, desperately,
Yes.
but it's not easy.
Even some consumers or so-called experts, or let's say even car aficionados, that some, I don't know, 10 years ago, it was very easy to badmouth Chinese industries. Now, when I hear someone talking about, how you will see in Europe when we have Chinese cars and they will start burning, I'm like, just get out of your house, buy a flight, go to Shanghai, call an Uber Black, and you will see this BYD car that opens with suicide doors. I'm sure you've seen some of them.
Of course.
It's just amazing. It is just amazing. And how they integrated that with technology. I feel that somehow we have remained a lot in the past, like in the Middle Ages in Europe. And I always say this anecdote. I will repeat it one more time. I was in this marketing meeting and we were talking with this agency and how to develop a strategy to start entering into the digital realm in China. And I was trying to make a point that we need to think different. Like we need to think ahead. Chinese have changed a lot, and that person replied, "Yes, Chinese are evolving." And I said, you need to stop and you need to rephrase. Chinese have evolved, and now we don't see where they're going. And I believe that let's just, for the sake of being Friday and talking shit, let's put a percentage out of the top of my head, but 95% of companies haven't realized that yet. Western companies.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a challenge because still, I think the idea is we can impose a certain commercial strategy into that. One of the let's say weak points of coming from a culture of commerce, like Mediterranean countries, especially Italy, is that and I work for Italians, so I'm going to talk in the first person. We normally think our strategy is best and is what people should follow. It doesn't apply here. You work for an Italian company though, and you have thrived in these years. What have you done to convince the people upstream that you need to change?
Well, first, I don't think I did much, but the reality is that I am the only Italian in the company. So at one point, the team cohesion and the team persistence and the team resilience in a way brought the people to understanding that, China, specifically China mainland, deserve a different focus and a different strategy. So it was not much really about me. So when the company was growing, we were getting more talents. The team itself made it clear and necessary. But I have to say that in our case, at least we have, directors and the top executives that either had exposure to China before. And for us, this is really a plus. So we had people working at headquarters that some of them, they spent a few years in China, especially in key functions. In general, our shareholders or directors, call it as you like, they are heavy travelers. So they have traveled to China for the last 20 years and they have always been big China believers. And at one point, if you are a big China believer and you like the place and you want to understand the place, you also understand what it works and what doesn't work and where you have to back off and say, let the team do it. So for me, it was not that difficult, to be honest, thanks to this. So I think about our IT, our marketing, our HR. These are all people that work for international brands before. Some of them were relocated in China for a period of time. And so it's easier to let the message go through in a way.
Same.
And so that's a big advantage. But I understand that not all the companies have the luxury sort of to have people that have been exposed to these cultures and to this way of working. So that's not easy.
You need people in the pinnacle, yeah, exactly, that have been in your position, and that's not easy. Another thing that is not easy is that we talked about that sense of pride of society.
Yeah.
And you just mentioned you are the only Italian
Yeah.
in your Chinese team. I don't know if if you can extend that to Asia Pacific,
Yeah.
but so my question is, with a base of the workforce so local, that now has a sense of pride, that now they know how to do things. What is, let's say, your secret sauce for being able to be respected and carried, let's say, to success by your team? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think you need to really sometimes give credit and listen. And things work just in a different way sometimes. Even Hong Kong, which is a very liberal in terms of, labor law, all certain things, it's still a very liberal place, right? Like, I mean, you
Yep.
can hire, fire, take people part-time, it's extremely casual, high density of talents. There are things that work in a certain way that are unique to Hong Kong, and you just need to get along with it. So, and in China I think compared to Hong Kong, still has a different overall set of rules in the society, and especially in the corporate world. It's still quite different, because in the end, it's a matter of education. It's a matter of education system. Hong Kong, for most of the people we deal with, they were born and raised in a different education system than the one of mainland China. So, which doesn't mean it's better or worse. It's just different. So,
Yes.
that's
but you managed to earn the respect, and the results speak to that. And I want to ask you, do you think that all of the sacrifices, and I'm going to enter into a very dense period of your life, do you think that all of the sacrifices you did personally between 2020 and 2022 matter? Because for whoever doesn't know Marco Galimberti, you are one of the persons that makes me feel like a weak worker. Normally, I pride. No. Normally, I pride myself to be intense, dedicated, full on. But what you did during COVID, you are one. I think maybe number one was actually Victor. You remember Victor, the Spanish guy that used to do tennis, that now is in Miami.
Okay.
Erika Castillola's husband.
Okay.
So he did 10,000 quarantines. But number two is you. How many quarantines did you do?
9.
9 quarantines, 2 or 3 weeks.
I never did 3 weeks. I did only 2+1 maximum in China.
So let's say you did 20
I did 105 days of quarantine in total.
105 days.
Yeah.
Do you think that was a factor for people to respect you? Was that, let's say, a competitive edge? Because not many people were doing that.
I don't know. I would ask to them. I don't know. Probably these has kept the company united back in time, especially the mainland China team. During COVID, we invested a lot, so we didn't stop really our development plan. We kept on going because the business overall, 2020-21 was doing fairly well, even in Hong Kong, to be honest. So they will never tell me if they really appreciate it or not. But in the end, I didn't do it for myself. I did it for the company overall. And the company, if you go back to the meaning of a company, it's, the company is a combination of capital and people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the end, you do it for the capital and you do it for the people. So I would not imagine me being away from my team, and you know how I am, that I'm very inclusive overall. I would have never imagined being stay away from mainland China for 2.5 years.
But
Never.
But in order to do that, you need a level of motivation. Can you just put this a little bit closer? A level of motivation that is paramount. Where do you take that motivation from? Is it something that you take from your own gut, or there is, let's say, the company culture is of sacrifice, dedication? And I'm saying this is a good thing, by the way. Where does that motivation in those moments? Because
I think it's a mix of a hunger in general,
mm-hmm.
And truly I owe everything to my team in China, because let's be honest, they made my career, right? So whatever we did, I didn't do it alone. Actually, far away from doing it alone. So it was really a collective effort. And so at one point you have to give it back. No? So the hunger and the fact that I really did want to have the boat sinking. I really didn't, let them feel that, I was just a guy around in Asia. And then at one point in the moment of difficulty, I would fly away. This is not me. So in the end, I am a fighter. So I'm a big fighter.
So you're actually replying to the question. But what happens during that period? Let's say, how do you mentally approach? I don't know if I don't want to bring you back to those dark days, but I think it's interesting because from a motivation point of view, and I think we can extract a lot of lessons from there. I did a few quarantines, 6 or 7, and the mindset I was going into them with, just telling myself, okay, I have a mission. I'm going to do these things. I'm going to do those things. I'm going to try to keep on a schedule, which sometimes with jet lag was a difficult thing. But I was trying to, how to say, create a mantra in my head that allowed me to go into it in a certain way. What was your approach?
The problem were the 1 in million China, to be honest.
Okay.
Because that was a lottery.
It was a lot because you didn't know which hotel you were going into.
First, the second, you didn't know which rooms. Third, you didn't know what could happen. And you were, in a total state of opacity in terms of, regulation and your rights. You were basically, your passport was withdrawn at the arrival at Pudong, and it was given back when you were entering the room. So that's a privation of, the ultimate freedom of movement, right? So your passport in the end is your passport, right?
Yeah.
And I was really thinking, what happens? And, I don't know if I ever told you that I had an accident in the first quarantine.
I remember, but I would love for you to tell it again because I think it's good content.
It's amazing. And to be honest, or I will tell you later what comes up, something that makes me appreciate in the end the Chinese very much. And I will never forget the way they treated me in a good way. I had an accident and I broke my teeth completely, and I broken my lip in 2 doing exercise in the hotel. So basically I was doing pull up with the band and the hook. Basically the band came out of the wardrobe and I hit my lip and my tooth with the
handle.
With the handle that had a small hook and like boom. So day 7 of the first quarantine.
Wow.
And this is because I did excessive preparation before. I have my plan for the exercise every day. I need to do the steps. I need to do gym. It's like total bullshit. So I'm there in the middle of the quarantine, bleeding, broken, tooth. I couldn't speak. I was speaking like that. And then I WeChat the lady and I ask sorry, I have a problem. And the lady, you have COVID? No, but I have another problem. What do you have? Come and check. She came. So the first thing I did, I was call my father, that is a doctor, and he 2 words and he reassured me completely. Like he told me, I said, Dad, I broke my tooth and I broke the lip. I switched on the camera. He was looking in the camera like, yeah, it's okay. So the tooth, no worries. You can make a new one. No big problem. Nothing is gonna happen. The lip, you just go to the hospital. They will give you stitches. It's okay. 1 week, it's done. I was like, whoa. And I was in the middle of the quarantine. So I said, what's going to happen? Right? Super, unique and rare. And I could imagine these Chinese guys saying, the bloody law, why? Why is doing gym? He can just watch TV and play video games. And so they came and they were like, whoa, then we need to go to hospital. Yeah. And we need a COVID ambulance. Okay. So in 1 hour and a half they came. They took me to Jiading, 1 hour drive, never ending. And I was alone behind the ambulance in this COVID ambulance. And they made me blood test to check my COVID positivity before entering the hospital. And then I did it again before meeting the doctor. So I was clearly negative, right? And I go in and the doctor, super nice. My team, super supportive, on the phone with the doctor, on the phone with the hospital. Amazing, really amazing. And then she gave me stitches. And And I remember she asked me, how did you hurt yourself? By doing exercise. And she laughed like, maybe you should stop doing exercise from tomorrow. So it was super fun. And then I came back, and they were coming 2 days, twice a day, trying to, curing my wound, checking everything. They were giving me antibiotics. They were really, really caring, and they allowed me to have whatever food I wanted. They said, every day, you let us know what you want. We'll bring it to you. We go and buy the food to you, and so on. So I could only eat congee, basically. And the team was super caring. And I remember when I left the quarantine after 7 days, because at one point I said, guys, you made me test. I'm negative. Can I just leave and go to the hotel? No. We need to finish quarantine. So I did 7 days quarantine, unable to speak, and it was a disaster. But when I left, they were all the nurse in the hotel. They were waiting me outside, and they gave me a small gift, and they were giving me an applause outside, and they were super. Maybe they were happy because I was leaving, but they have been super caring, really, super human. No, I mean, they were super sorry. They were calling my team every day in Chinese and telling them how I was feeling and so on. And then, imagine, this is only in China. Okay. I finished quarantine Monday morning, first appointment at 12 p.m. I had no tooth. Right? So I go to a dental clinic, and the doctor make me a temporary tooth. At 9 a.m. I had the appointment, and she make me a temporary tooth, which was supposed to last for 6 months and lasted for 3 years.
No way.
Yeah.
When did you change it back?
Last summer.
I have to say, good job.
Yeah.
I mean, now because you told me the story, I forgot about it. I knew you broke something, but bravo.
Yeah. And at 11 a.m., I was okay. She removed my stitches, and I had the tooth, and I went to the appointment like nothing happened.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, so I mean, in the end, I'm grateful because I think they showed at the beginning of COVID, where they were not super paranoid, they showed, in the end, the people, they always show humanity, no?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what happened in Shanghai then 2 years later. Clearly, they had a mandate that, they had to respect. And sometimes in China, this goes beyond your humanity, your logic and humanity. But when it comes to people, I still find a great nation behind.
No, I mean, I always like China, and apart from a few instances, I think there is still super kind people that, in most cases, they have developed this sense of pride without any rejection of the foreigner. Maybe up in Beijing, people are a little bit tougher because cold is tough on character. But definitely. But
guys, we are also proud. No, we are also proud.
So that goes without saying.
I mean, at one point, I understand them because they deserve a bit of credit, right?
Oh man.
They revolutionized the e-commerce business. They developed their own app and digital ecosystem. People don't talk about it, but on the batteries, on the solar. On the solar energy, on certain technologies, they are registering more patents than all the rest of the world combined every month. So you need to give them a bit of credit, right? I mean, on the electric vehicles, on the manufacturing, they do a lot on the pharma. On the pharma, guys, these guys, they produce pharmaceutical and medicines for
everyone.
Everyone.
Yeah.
You cannot just say, no, it's a China that copy. They're able to copy. No way. They're doing research. So on the technology and so on. So I would be proud as well. I mean, the Japanese, they've been proud for many years as well, right? And they still are. And the Italians, you want to talk about it?
Yeah, you've been going for 2,000 years. So talking about the digital, how they created a new digital reality. I think that was something. I mean, that this is not something new. It's not something that happened in COVID, but it's something that reached every type of business during COVID. How does a business like yours? Would you consider yourself, first of all, luxury or fast-moving consumer goods?
No,
How fast-moving is really Venchi's product?
I think we are a premium lifestyle product. That's
Okay.
it.
How
That's-
does this affect you? How do you convert the experience? Because I imagine that in your case, experience is something very important, from the physical shop to an integration between the offline and the online.
You have to be present everywhere. You have no choice.
Was this something that you were developing before, or something that you developed
I
during?
think China is the place where we invest most of the money in digital media in general,
Okay,
in the whole world.
I see.
Absolutely.
I see.
They have their own platform. Platform are becoming expensive to run.
Mhm.
To be on top of mind of the people is becoming more and more expensive. It's a totally different playbook. There is no email. There is no SMS. It's mostly seeding with Xiaoshu. It's advertisement. It's a lot of Tmall. It's a lot of WeChat AD. It's Xiaoshu definitely yes. Douyin definitely yes. So it's
How often do you change the approach? Because I feel like one of the things that I accuse Chinese of is that they change the apps that they use so often that they get lost sometimes. How fast do you need to update in order to be relevant in the market?
I think there is a cycle. Every 2 years there is a cycle. No, there is
Yes.
something that comes back. There is something that becomes more hot. Something that then lose a little bit of interest and so on. So you have to keep up with the trend. But the problem is that in China the trends are very fast.
The trends are very fast. So I see micro trends and
Yeah.
macro trends. One of the macro trends, and you say your lifestyle, I would consider even coffee lifestyle as well in a certain way.
Yeah.
Of course there are micro trends, chains, brands popping in and out, but the macro one is that Western brands are getting pushed away. Because before being the director or CEO of Venchi Asia Pacific, you were in Italy before. That's how
Yeah.
you came to Hong Kong, right?
No, I came for Venki.
Ah, you came from Venchi. You
Yeah.
were in Italy before. Ah, okay. But anyway, I'm gonna ask you this anyway because I'm sure you know the business. As per my knowledge, as per what I read this morning, the first 5 coffee chains in China are Luckin Coffee with more than 10,000 outlets, and then you have Coffee Box, Pacific Coffee, Grey Box Coffee, Fisheye Cafe.
Manner.
Then there is Manner, who was not in the list, but something actually
Okay.
quite recent.
Yeah.
But Chinese are pushing away the Western brands in the lifestyle. I
wouldn't say pushing away. I don't think pushing away is the right way to say. If you go to any shopping mall in China, at least in the premium ones, so I'm talking about 17, 18 cities, in the basement, first floor, second floor, and third floor, you have still 70% of the brands are foreigner. And there is still, you see the success of Lululemon, for example. Now
Okay.
talking about trends. It's totally... Then, of course, Lululemon also drags in Chinese brands that are doing very well. Maya Active, for example. So to say that the Western brands are pushed away, I don't think it's fair. I think it's fair to say that there are good Chinese brands that are on the rise and are competing with Western brands. And it all goes back to the brand. So how strong is your value proposition and how relevant you are still in the market? So if you talk about fast fashion, we have seen a macro trend of fast fashion slowing down and disappearing in China. But who took that space was Lululemon and all these brands that are doing a mix of, athleisure and are replacing a little bit the old Western fast fashion brands, right? So I would say it's a Western for Western, no, in a way. I mean, Lululemon is a Canadian brand, and all the fast fashion, they were, Spanish and the Northern European and so on. So, yeah, that's the problem, no? I mean, if you talk about specific brands, maybe it's the brand that has lost the relevancy, and there are some brands that actually are meeting exactly the needs of the customer, especially in the China of today. And then you have good Chinese brands competing, like in the cars, like in the coffee, as you said, but Starbucks has still 4,000 stores in China. So it's still a very strong brand, no?
They were still very much up there. But
the largest chain, quick service restaurant chain in China is still KFC. With, I think, 12,000, 13,000 point of sales. And they want to go to 20,000. Then if you tell me KFC China, it's a totally Chinese experience, right? Yeah, it's Yum China, parts of Yum brands,
Yeah.
but they develop a brand which, you know, sells fried chicken, but sells really tailored to the Chinese consumers.
You anticipated my next question, which was, and in the KFC, the answer is very clear. KFC has, let's say, gained a great market share in China because they have adapted completely. I mean,
Yeah.
they kept the logo, they kept
They
the fried
outplayed
chicken,
McDonald's.
and
So,
they
yeah.
outplayed McDonald's. In a let's say higher sector like yours, how do you stay relevant? Do you stay relevant? What is the sweet point? Because I imagine you have a combination of adaptability, even in product development, and keeping the core value. Where is the sweet point? How do you make those decisions?
The sweet point, I think it's for a brand like ours, is that we sell a product that the Chinese recognize that it's a product that doesn't belong to their culture and to their heritage.
Mhm.
And chocolate for the moment, which doesn't mean it's going to last forever. Chocolate and gelato. Gelato is totally Italian, so in their, you know, image, this is an Italian product. And if you want an authentic gelato, you go for an Italian brand. And for the chocolate, they think it's really an European thing. It's an European thing because China had no colonies and no exposure to Central America and South America in their history,
Mhm.
differently from Europe, as you know, being Spanish very well. And therefore, they were not trading those products. And these products
Mhm.
are coming from West Africa and Central and South America,
Yep.
which is the two places where China was not exposed at all, right?
Mhm.
And so historically, they didn't develop their own sort of industry behind chocolate. I think it's because of that reason. But like many other industries in Europe were not developed, and they were developed somewhere else because of natural resources and so on. So I think that's really how the beauty of the earth, no? That certain territories, certain places, they are rich of something,
Mhm.
and every country has been exploiting, sometimes in a good way, sometimes in a bad way in history. They have been exploiting, reworking, refining, and so on, and doing it better. If you think about it, for the Swiss, the Italians, and the French and the Belgian brands, we are considered, you know, chocolatier, no?
Mhm.
We are, you know, strong heritage of the chocolate industry. Chocolate is a product that doesn't grow in Europe at all.
Yeah.
Like
like
zero.
coffee.
Like
Coffee.
coffee.
Yeah.
Exactly like coffee. So that's really has been probably the power of the trade and the colonies and the power that Europe had 200 years ago, 300 years ago, in terms of exposure and so on. So that's how I see it. So I think for those brands that do belong to a category which has a strong heritage, there is still a possibility to prosper.
Mhm.
But again, I would say it's not different from. We're just looking into the other way around. But would you buy a mobile phone made in Spain or made in Italy? There has never been an industry in technology. You know, everything started. You know, that consumer market started on a global scale with Japan.
Yep.
In the 70s and the 80s. No,
Mhm.
and in the imagination of people, a camera is Japanese.
Yeah.
Finished. Would you buy a Canon from an Italian brand? Like, it's a Sony. It's only Leica, I think, the only. But I think they produce somewhere else, somewhere Far East, in the Far East.
Yes.
But it's the same thing, no? I mean, the cameras are Japanese. The computers, these are products that don't belong to Europe, right? They don't. Even if you would say, Olivetti and the research and so on, is very true.
Yeah.
When we talk about consumer stuff,
Yes, cutting edge. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's no way, right? But we don't say, iPhone is Chinese. The iPhone is totally Chinese.
It is. It
Guys,
is Chinese. That's
it's
why. That's
99%,
yeah.
made in China by a Taiwanese owned factory.
Yeah.
With Taiwanese chips, with the Korean screens, with whatever, blah, 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 with probably locally sourced aluminium or whatever. Yeah, of course, you would tell me, is the Silicon Valley still the epicenter of the research in the development zone? Absolutely yes. You see with the AI, no?
Yes.
I mean, they just pulled out of nowhere ChatGPT and so on. So, but then when you talk about execution,
Yeah.
I don't think the United States are making
there are
any consumer product on the technology since 20 years, right?
And I think as much as they, they keep on repeating this thing of let's bring manufacturing to the US, they're gonna have a very hard time doing so. I was actually I wrote down Nokia because when you were talking about this, I thought of something for the first time. It's like how much of the success of Nokia can we give to the fact that the name sounds very Japanese?
Maybe, yeah.
Think about it. Because if you actually...
I don't remember if it was made in Finland, Nokia.
It's made in Finland. Yeah. Nokia is made in Finland. I think they got sold to Microsoft a few years back.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether they're relevant or not. And probably, at least the offices or some people...
It's a gone generation. Motorola, BlackBerry...
Man, the world has changed. I mean, have you when I started working in Atlas Concord in 2013, my phone was a BlackBerry. That's only 10 years ago. I mean, 11 years ago.
Yeah, disappear.
And disappear.
There is a beautiful movie about BlackBerry.
I haven't seen it. No, I'm super interested. Where can you watch it?
I watched it on the plane, but I think it's should be either on Amazon or HBO. I don't think it's on Netflix.
I'll look it up. BlackBerry movie.
Yeah.
So the market is very tough, but you will survive because you're a strong guy. And one of the questions I wanted to ask you today is, how do you do to be everywhere all the time? So if that's my impression, I'm sure that you will go back to it. When do you think this economic context will change and will be a little bit more favorable?
I think impossible to say, impossible to predict.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like predictions. In general, with COVID and after COVID, I started being very skeptical on predictions. I think the maximum you can predict is within 2 months, 3 months. You have a quarter of visibility, no more than that. Everybody was predicting in June that interest rates were going down. They are not going down.
No.
The Fed signaled that maybe they will go down, but nobody knows. Nobody was expecting the interest rates to go so high. Nobody expected cocoa price to go at 12,000 pounds per metric ton from 2,500 pounds in the time lapse of 6 weeks.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was huge. And
when did this happen?
Up to a month ago. Now it's sliding down. Of course, a lot of speculation. When hedge funds, they switch on the engine, they go all the way, right?
Yeah.
So it happened with coffee. It happened because of climate change, which is true. It happens because of a regulation imposed by the European Union on the deforestation and the plantations in West Africa. So it's difficult to say. There is a big element of risk, which is the American elections. Mm-hmm. We are in full election now. And actually, Biden is behaving at its best Republican way it could be.
Okay, can you elaborate on that?
Well, I mean, the tariffs and, this TikTok ban is something that Trump threatened, and he did. So you realize that. So the first one to raise the problem of TikTok was Trump, that he was trying to sell it to Microsoft and so on. And basically Biden executed the ban. And now it's up to the Supreme Court, right? If I'm not wrong. So, okay, guys, but you are a Democrat and the other guy is a Republican. So you are playing his playbook because you don't want him to win. You are imposing tariffs to save American jobs. But the Make America Great Again was the slogan of your predecessor, not yours. And so I'm like, and I would say the Democrats, I mean, let's not touch on the war, but I mean, there are 2 conflicts ongoing in the world, right? Where
it is very weird that now a Republican president is synonym with peaceful times, or at least because he threatens, but he tries to avoid conflict because conflict is expensive. And then Democrats that normally has been the peace and love type of people are actually the ones dropping bombs. It's actually quite
Yeah. So and now we are hoping somebody's hoping for Trump to win to stop the wars. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
The guy. Trump was the guy threatening Kim Jong-un to, I'm gonna send you a rocket and it's gonna be a big one.
Yeah, I'm sure that probably behind the table he's sending Kim Jong-un memes and and love signs, and he's actually kind of a nice guy, but he does play very well the heel, the bad guy in the movie. The question is, and I'm sure I agree with you, these are tactical moves from Biden, so evident that they only have one goal, which is November 2024. Do you think I don't think they're gonna be enough. What do you think? Because I mean, the push of Donald Trump is so big, and I think Donald Trump has understood one thing very well, which is, and he has changed politics worldwide. Trump proved that the memory of the electors is very short. Everyone was talking about the attention span of youth because of Instagram. Trump proved that was something that you could say about the whole society. Do you remember when he said he used to say terrible things about Mexicans, but then 1 week after he would appear on the TV eating a taco and says how much I love Mexican food. Latin vote going through the roof. I don't know if the rest of the electorate actually has realized that he tactically he's very good. Let's see. It's very interesting. I have one easier question to close the podcast, and it's another forecast. Is when are you let's say, will Sampdoria win the championship again next year?
That's a difficult one.
I don't know if you know, but the Monday here was the eternal president Francesco Vitali. Here we had the cup here on top, and he's playing all of the history. You are probably the let's say the second most important character in this crazy project that I admire a lot.
I think we are split it equally. I think
you dedicate. I mean, apart from spending a lot of time in quarantines, managing a team. How many people do you manage? 200,
including stores.
Yes,
700.
700. You managed to put together a team. You are vice president.
Yeah, team manager, co-founder.
So to put together a team that if you sold shirts, I would buy one. So shame on you because you don't sell shirts.
No, honestly, it's a history of friendship, and we like to win. That's the reality of things.
It's a history of friendship, but of competitive people. Because third division, second division, first division, and people, let's say, were thinking, okay, look.
Because the first time you win, you like it, and the second time you don't want to lose, and the third time you want to prove yourself. That's the thing.
So what can we expect for next year? Are there going to be big changes?
I think it's going to be I think there are going to be changes in the sense that players like me and other people, I think we have to back down, because this year we realized that every year we're getting 1 year older, and we are going to the 40s. No, we're not going backwards to the 30s.
Yes.
And so some of us, I think we are not able anymore to guarantee the same pace, the same intensity. And the reality is that if you want to play this sport, even if it's a very amateur level, but if you want to play it well, you need to train at least 2 to 3 times a week.
Yep.
There's no choice. And every year you're 1 year older.
Mm-hmm.
And every year your bones, your muscle, you're more subject to injuries and so on. So, and the reality is that we don't have time to train 3 times a week. Training getting ready, fit and so on. So I think we need to give more space to the youngest. So we have a good generation of 25 to 35, very good, very skilled, very committed, some of them Italian. The team is getting more international, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I think also the other teams will gear up, because this year we really won in a way that was unexpected, as Francesco probably told you, completely unexpected. And it's the first time in the history of this league, which lasts from 1992, that we win third, second, and first in a row. And so clearly, we are not the most, loved team in the league, right? We came out of nowhere, and for 3 years we won the league, right? So the other teams, I think they want to beat us, and they are going to do their best to beat us.
Well, but Sampdoria, if you get new players, you have an amazing leadership. So I'm sure you will do that very well, and I'm also sure that you won't miss the action, because you're going to be very busy doing something else very soon. So all the best of wishes to that.
Thank you.
And Marco, I'm super grateful you came. I enjoy this podcast when I do them, especially on a Friday, because it's as it's supposed to be. And even though this will come will come out in a couple of weeks, it will come out at 5 p.m., which is exactly the time when we started. So it's just amazing harmony.
Very nice.
Marco, thank you very much. As I like to say, this episode is not about me, it's about the guests. So I leave you the last words to say hello to your mom, to your players, to your wife, to Taylor Swift, whoever you want. So if you want to talk to me, you can talk to me. If not, that's your camera over there.
I have to apologize to my wife because I promised her that I would go to every doctor visit, and I did all good until the 8th month, but today and yesterday I skipped the last 2 visits. So I feel bad a little bit.
I'm sure she will forgive you. Thank you, Marco. All the best. Thank you everyone that stayed up to this part of the podcast. Much love. Enjoy the weekend. Be happy. And if you know someone that is not subscribed, tell them to remedy that mistake. Ciao, ciao, ciao.